1 to Ipswich yesterday in a dreadful performance. And I mean, I don't even know where to start in this game because it was just a shit show for more or less the majority of the game. I thought maybe in the second half we came out with a bit of fight and we were creating chances, and Dom Solanke has that goal ruled out. And if that goal isn't ruled out and, you know, it doesn't flick off his hand and it goes in the back of the net, we could be, you know, sitting here talking about a draw or even a win. But I felt like as well in the first few minutes when Sonny puts in that ball for Brennan Johnson, if Brennan Johnson scores that goal, I think we're talking about a completely different game.
Agreed. And unfortunately he didn't, and it was a terrible miss. And that's not an excuse for not winning the game. But obviously, when you're playing against a team like Ipswich, who have changed the way they're playing for this game, gone to a back five, playing Davis and Ben Johnson at wing backs, gone for 3 centre-backs, an early goal completely changes up their game plan, doesn't it? And I think if we can get that early goal, break their game plan, it could be a very different story. But it's not, look, as much as we can say, oh, if we go 1-0 up, they could have gone 1-0 up within a minute. And that set the tone for the game. Dragoshin was all at sea for that moment. Smodics is getting in ahead of, I think it was a doggy, like just sharper than him and looked more on it than him. And we could have been 1-0 behind if it wasn't for a good save from Vicario. They had 2 chances from set pieces. One chance that hit the bar, another chance that went wide from the 2 headers. One hit the bar and one went wide. So, you know, they had, you know, for all our talk about, you know, is our set piece problem overblown, they then have 2 chances for set pieces, and then they do go 1-0 up, and that first goal was a shit show all round. Terrible from the wide areas to stop the cross, terrible from Romero to not fully clear the ball with his header, terrible from Porro to just watch the ball, and absolutely cowardly from Brennan Johnson to back out of a challenge when he knows a challenge had to be made. Absolutely cowardly. And it was a pathetic goal all round from our defence, to be honest. So many individual problems there, which Ange will have to sit down and analyse, because it was absolutely shocking from everyone how we conceded that goal. Absolutely shocking and unacceptable and inexcusable, that goal, really.
Yeah. And if we bring up the stats of the first half, I mean, this just tells a story. I mean, all the possession in the world, 67% possession, but then they're the ones creating 1.53 XG to our 0.82. 6 shots apiece, but they created 4 big chances in that first half. How are Ipswich creating 4 big chances in our stadium in that first half? And by the way, we all talk about before this game how much of a a fortress this stadium is becoming. You know, we batter Villa here, we beat Man City in the Cup, we're battering every team that come here. Then little old Ipswich haven't won a game all season, which, you know, if everyone makes their predictions now, who's going to go down this season, everyone's probably going to put Ipswich in those 3. You know, they're creating 4 big chances in the first half. It's nowhere near good enough.
It's terrible. Again, defensively shocking. The second goal came from a moment where we had our best chance of the half, really, and we missed it. They broke on us and they scored a second goal. Terrible breakaway. Brent Bentancur has to take him down. He doesn't. Porro then has a problem because he's got Leif Davis and Smodics running in behind. Romero's tracking Smodics. He completely leaves him. Dragoshin is keeping everyone on side. And then Vicario's wrist is nowhere near strong enough. And it falls to Dragoshin and he scores an own goal. Another goal which was very, very poor all round. And for all our talk for a lot of this season, where I've been saying anyway, where as much as we have conceded sloppy goals, actually we don't concede too many chances. Well, that was definitely different in this game, because Ipswich had some very, very good chances in that first half, and it was when it went 2-0, I don't think it was anything less than they deserved. They were brilliant. They defended very well for a lot of the game. They'd handled our press really effectively, and when they broke forward, they did create opportunities, whether it be from a set piece or from counter-attacks or even from just general crosses. We couldn't deal with it, and Liam Delap was giving us all sorts of trouble. Sammy Smodics on the left-hand side channel was picking up positions which we couldn't manage. I think Amari Hutchinson was brilliant on the ball. We couldn't touch him as soon as he was running at us. And for a team who, as you said, are down in 19th at the moment, I thought they dealt with us way too comfortably in that first half.
Way too comfortably. And it was like every cross that we were putting in just went into Murick's arms. And I'm sitting there in the stands, right, and I'm like, test this keeper. You need to keep testing this keeper. He's the poorest keeper in the league. We've seen mistakes week in, week out from this guy. We saw it last year as well for Burnley in the Premier League. Mistake-ridden keeper. Why are we not testing this guy more than we did yesterday? I thought that was disgraceful.
Mm-hmm. Agreed. He made a few saves, but no saves which you didn't really expect him to make, I think, throughout the game. And especially in the first half, I don't know if he made any saves. I think it was pretty comfortable. And again, our best moment of the game came from a bad pass to Muric.
It says he made 3 saves in the first half.
1 from Son, I remember.
And 2 in the second half.
There was 1 from Son, which was a simple save. 1 from Solanke as well, which he made with the good chest down, and his strike was tipped around the post. I don't remember the third save, but what I would say is our best moment came from him giving the ball straight to Sarr. And we didn't capitalise. And in fact, they broke and scored the second goal from it. And that's a big turning point in the game. Massive turning point. If we make use of that moment, make it 1-1 before half time, again, it's a different game. Yeah. Instead, not only is it not 1-1, but it's 2-0 to Ipswich. And cost us big time, that miss.
Yeah.
And Son was a lot to blame, because we did perfectly in that moment. And then, you've got Solanke and Johnson making 2 good runs. He couldn't pick out either of them.
Yeah, and it's hard to pick out kind of any positives from that game. But the one positive that I really did see was Rodrigo Bentancur, because I think he's really keeping up his standards week in, week out. And I thought he was one of the only, if not the only player, maybe slightly with Sonny as well, that kept up those standards in this game. And if you bring up this the stats from Rodrigo Bentancur, look at that heat map. He was just absolutely everywhere in that middle of the park. It felt like he was on a one-man mission to stop Ipswich at times. If you look at the stats as well, obviously he got that goal to claw us back into the game with a bullet header from a corner. 1 shot on target, 1 shot off target, 1 shot blocked as well, 1 dribble attempt successful, 9 out of his 13 duels won, and 7 tackles and 3 interceptions as well throughout the game. So I think, like, when you're trying to pick out positives from this game, which probably no one wants to hear after a loss against Ipswich, I do think he was one of them.
Yeah, and I thought the last few games he's been really good. I thought he came on against Galatasaray was brilliant as well. Against Villa, against City, put in some really strong displays. So he's in a good moment. Albeit, I thought for the second goal, he has to bring down Hutchinson there. If he brings him down, just stops that moment. And I don't know whether that's just a willingness to try and win the ball and not try and do a smart tactical foul, or if he just dives in wrongly instead of standing his ground. But that had to go. He had to go down at that moment, Hutchinson. We had to bring him down. But I thought, by and large, he was our best player, and he was the one being more aggressive than anyone else. I thought he had a bit more quality of the ball than anyone else. And also set pieces. He assisted the Solanke VAR goal, and he scored the goal that got us back in the game. And I thought he was playing really, really well, to be honest.
But apart from that, I mean, no one had an outstanding display, in my opinion. I mean, we got to talk about, we've been through them in the player ratings, but Radu Dragusin, man, after a few positive displays against Aston Villa and against Manchester City now, he's put in 2 horrific displays now against Galatasaray and against Ipswich in 2 games, which are massive opportunities for him on the back of 2 positive displays. I mean, he just went against all his strengths yesterday, didn't he? Because you're talking about Radu. What are his strengths? His strength is physicality, winning the ball in the air. And I thought he just failed massively in those kind of aspects yesterday.
And on the ball, he's just so uncomfortable, and it kind of sets the tone. It just adds nervousness. I think we know that about Radu.
What hurts me the most is his strengths, and he just didn't show any of them yesterday.
I don't think he had to too much, but I mean, in the first half, I think both goals aren't the aspects that cost us both the goals. I think
when they hit the bar,
he got bullied for that moment. He did, but those moments. Could have done better, but I don't think those are the things that cost us really. And for example, that moment in the first minute, again, just so awkward. He doesn't know what he's doing with the ball, and he ends up losing it, and we nearly concede from it. I think as well, it just adds that bit of nervousness around the back line. People don't want to give the ball to him because they know that he's just awkward on it, and you don't back him to find his teammate with an accurate pass.
Yeah.
And that's really, really concerning as well. From set pieces, I expect him to be a bit more of a threat. I mean, I guess some of the crosses were not good enough, and they went straight into Murich's hands. But I want to see him do something in the opposition box. He's a big fella. For Genoa, he was, a big threat in the opposition box. He hasn't been that for us yet this season, but when you're as awkward as he is on the ball, unless you're absolutely perfect defensively, there's going to be serious questions asked, and he was far from perfect defensively in this game. And following off the back of what was a really poor showing against Galatasaray, there are serious questions being asked of him at the moment. But to be fair, against Villa and against City, he did put in game those good performances in those games. So I don't want to just throw those away. But in the past 2 games, he's been terrible, and there's no getting away from that.
Yeah, he's got to get a lot better. That's the reality. But if we move on to the second half, look at the stats in the second half. I mean, we clearly did stem the tide. I mean, the damage was already done by then because we go in at half-time 2-0 down. But we did come out with a bit of maybe an extra motivation to go and get the job done because, we get that corner, Solanke puts it in. If that is allowed, then it's probably a very different game. But I felt like there was a bit of a rally from the start of the second half.
Yeah, and as you say, unfortunate the Solanke goal got ruled out. I thought we started the second half with a bit of intensity. We obviously ended up getting the goal through Bentancur as well. I think for some reason our out-swinging corners were looking really dangerous, but when we were doing in-swinging corners, they went straight into Murich's hands every single time. And maybe we should have thought about just doing more out-swinging corners because that was what was working. But we looked like the pressure told, and we got that goal, and we were looking, maybe we could get back in the game. And if you got that feeling, if we got it back to 2-2, we'll win the game. But it never happened. Unfortunately, probably the best chance we had was from Solanke right in the last minute, which he has to square to Son. He has to get his head up and see where Son is. He doesn't, which is unlike Solanke. He usually does get his head up quite a bit, but he didn't in that scenario. His shot was a poor finish as well, saved by Muric and in that moment. And we end up losing the game. And as well, what I really didn't like about us in the last 20 minutes is how naive we were with these bloody fouls. Just giving Ipswich opportunity after opportunity after opportunity to go down and feign injury and allow themselves as well to go over to Kieran McKenna and get instructions. And there was one moment where Delap has got 3 men around him. He's got Bentancur, he's got Udogie, and he's got Dragoshin. He's all alone. He's got 3 men around him, and I think it was Bentancur, just goes through the back of him and brings him down. I'm like, he's going nowhere. What are you doing? Yeah. He's going absolutely nowhere, and you've just given him an out. You've given him an opportunity to waste about 2 minutes, to feign injury, and to allow Ipswich a breather. And each time that happened, it just wasted another minute and another minute, and it just kept that time ticking down. And there was a moment in the corner flag, we're just giving them fouls, and we were just allowing them to kill the game and kill time. And as much as it was clever play from Ipswich, it was dumb and naive play from us. And that is not the first time that's happened this season. I mean, against Villa, we won the game, but it was happening in that game as well. Against Palace, happening in that game as well. We always buy into these teams' tricks, and whether it's because we're a young team or whatever it is, we don't know how to deal with these teams who are being too smart against us. We just allow them opportunities every time to buy these free kicks and to waste more time. And the more time they waste, the more frustrated we get. And the more frustrated we get, the more fouls we make. And the more fouls we make, it's like a circle. It's like a circular motion with these moments. And it's so frustrating to watch. Just us continuously foul the opposition when they're leading. And that's something we've really got to learn from. Well, I guess Ange said it himself. The best way to learn from that is to not give them the opportunity to time waste in terms of not giving the lead. And that's the best way to combat that. And maybe he's right.
Yeah. I thought it was really bad from Brennan. Really bad when you need your wingers to really step up and create chances. I mean, every cross he put in was just straight into Muric's arms, wasn't it? And it was so frustrating because even he had chances to get on the score sheet in the first minute. Like we said, could have been a completely different game. But and you talk about the defending for the goal as well. I mean, he put in a proper disaster class yesterday, didn't he?
Terrible. Obviously missed that chance in the early parts of the game and never got a better one really after that. And there was that moment in the second half where Bentancur played a beautiful through ball to him. What a ball that was. If you watch it back, I think he disguises it so well, Bentancur. You think he's going out wide, but he just does a defence-splitting pass right through to Brennan. And all Brennan has to do is just take it into his path and go for on goal and score. And he takes a bad touch. He forces himself out wide. He allows the Ipswich defender to get on the goal side of him. And all of a sudden, it forces Tottenham back. And that was a bad moment again from Brennan. But I can't look past the goal from him. I really can't. It's so cowardly. It really is. I can't believe he's pulled out the challenge. If you literally watch it back, you see him go towards it and then pull back when he feels like Smodics is going to hit the ball. You can't be doing that as a professional footballer when everyone should be fighting for their life for points in this league. As I said, we've seen how tight the league is. Everyone is putting their all to win points and fighting tooth and nail at the moment to stop goals and putting their body on the line. And to see Brennan do that was completely inexcusable. You've got to make sure you're getting ahead in there. You've got to make sure that you're stopping that from happening. And that goal, it cost us a goal, and we end up losing the game because of it. It's shocking, absolutely shocking. He doesn't make up for it going the other way either. So terrible day for Brendan, unfortunately.
A lot of noise about Ange now, isn't there? A lot of noise. When you're looking all over social media, or even someone, when we're doing our match reaction after the game yesterday, comes into the camera and says, Ange out. Do you see where these people are coming from? Do you understand
I understand it. I understand it. We've just lost to Palace and Ipswich, who are both winless. And as you say, we're 17 wins, 17 losses in our past 34 games. That's not a good enough record when you're comparing it to our last few years where we've been terrible, or we've been in the wilderness, shall we say, in the past few years, and we've had better records than we've got now. But this season does seem to be very different in terms of where it's a bit of a weird season, it seems, right now. Apart from Liverpool, no one is consistent. City have just got off the back of 4 defeats in a row. No one seems to be grabbing this season by the ball by the horns. Everyone seems to be very competitive. Teams like Brighton and Fulham are really stepping it up this season, and they seem to be right in and amongst it for challenging. Forest are bloody up in 5th at the moment. Bournemouth and people like Bournemouth, just got back-to-back wins against Arsenal and Man City. They're doing well. So right now, as much as it's bad, and it's the record is 16 points out of 11 games. It's a terrible record. It's not something I would have been happy with if you asked me before the season.
Nuno got sacked for 15.
Nuno got sacked for 15, but I think there are context-depending differences between Nuno and Ange. I think would play much better football under Ange. You can see more an identity under Ange, as much as when we have performances like yesterday and against Palace, then obviously you don't. But I think by and large this season, for majority of our games, you do see an identity with the team. You do see what we're trying to do, and by and large, there have been a lot of good performances this season. But when you're losing to 2 teams in the relegation zone, look, we've got 1 point out of Leicester, Palace, and Ipswich. That's a massive alarm bell. That's a massive red flag. And I can understand teams, fans' frustrations with that and anger with that, because it's not good enough. And knowing Tottenham, the fear is if we're getting these results against the bottom sides, what are we going to do against the top sides? I get that. But also I know, knowing Spurs, we're just as likely to go away at Man City and win as we are to bloody lose at home to Ipswich. That's just how we are. So we have to make up those, no doubt about it. We have to make up those results, and we have to get some big wins for sure. But at the end of the day, we are 3 points off third. That is reality. And as much as we're in 10th, it's only 11 games in. There's so much football to be played, and we're only 3 points off third, and we're in the quarterfinal of the Carabao Cup, and we're in a good position in Europa League. We're probably going to go through in Europa League as well. We're still in the top 8 even of Europa League. So until there's some serious downturn in all those facets, I'm not Ange out yet. For sure, I'm not nowhere close to that. If by come Christmas, we're 10 points off the top 4 and we're out the Carabao Cup, and maybe we didn't finish top 8 Europa and we finished top 24 instead, and we bottled that as well, then I think there are serious questions to be asked about where we're heading and what's going on. But right now, there is still a pathway for us to achieve what we want to achieve this season, as much as how hard it is to see that after a really bad loss like we had yesterday. And it was a bad loss, terrible, massive blow to what we want to do this season. And there are serious questions. I think you would be stupid not to have serious questions right now about what's going on, especially after 5 defeats in 11 games. I think there are understandable questions, but I'm not willing to throw it away just yet.
No, neither am I. And I think we need to stick with the manager. And I've said on a number of occasions, I think he is taking us in the right direction. But these games now against Crystal Palace, second half against Brighton, and against Ipswich now are massively concerning for me, massively. And when you talk about how tight this league is, right? Our next 4 games, we go to the Etihad, we play Fulham at home, we play Bournemouth away, we play Chelsea at home.
Yeah.
They are massive games, and
But
they are hard games as well.
They're hard, but it's a weird one with Spurs. It's like as much as we give everyone a chance, we also have a chance against everyone, if you know what I mean. There's like no game where we're out of it, as much as there's games where we should be winning, but we've given the opposition too many chances. There's also no game where I feel like there's no chance we can get anything from that game.
The thing is the away games that gets me. I mean, we've won 1 game away from home all season, which was the last few games of Erik ten Hag. Every other away game we've pretty much flattered to deceive, and if we've had a good performance, we've still dropped points in them. Bournemouth have been absolutely brilliant at home all season. They've dispatched of Arsenal, they've dispatched of Man City. They had a really good game against Chelsea where they deserved a lot more. And if Bournemouth are going to kind of give that aggression in the game against us, I really can't see us getting more than a point in that game.
Well,
Man City away, obviously they're on the back of 3 defeats in a row in all competition, 4 in all competitions.
Started by Tottenham.
So I feel like they've been struggling massively with injuries. So it's a good time for them to have a break. So I think they'll come into it with a bit of extra motivation.
Maybe we'll have Van der Ven back by then.
I hope so. I really hope so, because we're going to desperately need him for that game. So I mean, those 2 away games are massively concerning for me. Fulham at home and Chelsea at home are also 2 big London derbies.
When you've lost Ipswich at home, every game is a massive concern now, because you've just lost to a team who are second bottom, so you can't look at any game as a given when that's happened. So as much as all these games you're reading out, you could read any. When you've just lost at home to Ipswich, any game sounds tough for sure.
Yeah, but even if we've won a few games in a row, those games sound tough.
They're all every game. I'm looking at the top 10 in the Premier League, and they're all good teams. When half the Premier League are this quality, there's going to be a lot of tough games, and everyone's going to have to play these tough games, not just us. Right now, these tough games are coming up. They're going to be tough, but as much as I feel like every game is tough, I also feel like the way we play gives us a chance in these games as well.
How many points are we getting in the next 4 games?
City away, Fulham at home, Bournemouth away, Chelsea at home. How many points are we getting? 7.
You reckon 7? Where are those 7 coming from?
I reckon we beat Fulham. I reckon we beat one of Bournemouth or Chelsea, and we get 4 points out of Bournemouth, Chelsea. Or we get out of Bournemouth, Chelsea, and City away. We get 4 points. I reckon 1 win and 1 draw out of those 3 games. I reckon.
So you're going for 2 wins, 1 draw, and a loss.
Yeah.
For me, I don't think we're getting anything at Bournemouth. I don't think we're getting anything at City either. I'm going to go for 4 points. I think potentially draw at home to Chelsea, and I think we'll beat Fulham at home. I think 4 points. And if we get 7 points, I think that's a great return from those games.
It's decent.
I think it's a really good return, and it will keep us in and amongst it. But if we do go out there and get 4 points, which is also very realistic, I mean, you will start to see a gap start to appear between the top 4.
Depending how the other teams do.
Yeah, obviously. But look, that is the match review. Very hard defeat to take yesterday at the Tottenham Hotspur Stadium. We have lost 2-1 at the hands of Ipswich.